welcome to our Spark Innovation Periscope for this week, the final week of the campaign. We're just going to wait for a few people to join before we kick off and get things going for the final time. Slowly load this up. And I hope that everyone is managing to avoid the big chill at the moment. So first thing to say is a big thank you to all of the water company staff who are physically out on the ground and making sure that everyone stays safe through this pretty horrendous time in terms of weather and all the emergency services and everything. But we hope that everyone who's watching today is wrapped up nice and warm somewhere safe. So brilliant. Ronan's just joined in and everything. Brilliant. I think that's Claire.
That's Claire.
Yeah, fantastic. Sorry, we can just see everyone joining there.
Very good.
Okay, so we will kick off. It's brilliant that so many people are already joining in. So as I've mentioned, this is the final Periscope of the Spark Innovation campaign.
We're a bit sad. We're a bit sad, yeah, totally.
But this week is focusing on Don't Wait, Innovate, our programme. So it's talking about how all of this innovation, it needs to start now. And joining me today, I couldn't have a better cast than my co-host, Margareta.
Hi everyone.
And also the man who started off our campaign as such. You were involved in the first video, Mr. John Russell, our Senior Director of Strategy and Planning. Very great to have you along here. Nice bit of symmetry to have you in at the end as well.
Pleasure.
Brilliant. So as a pre-warning to everyone watching, we are live, so bear with us through any stutters or anything like that. Brilliant that some people are already sending in saying that this is the final one and they've enjoyed them so far. We hope that you continue to enjoy it and hope you keep engaging with all the YouTube videos and the commentary going on. So just to say that during this we will be talking through some of your comments from the week, but we're not setting expectations, we're not telling you what to do by any means. This is just meant to be a nice conversation, stimulating some discussion, which goes into our Twitter hour, which is on immediately after this at 1 PM. So please do join us for that. But shall we kick off?
Definitely. Thank you so much for commenting this week. Yet again, we're absolutely overwhelmed by your support and the amount of comments and emails you're receiving through this campaign. And obviously we can't mention all of the comments yet again this week. We picked out some tweets and comments. And as always, we're going to start with the Twitter poll this week. And we've asked you, what is the best way to generate more innovation? Is it many forms of innovation? Is it a culture of innovation? Is it more collaboration? Or is it overcome fear of failure? And it's pretty clear that culture was the winner of this week's poll. John, any surprises in that?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think if you'd asked me, I probably would have said that was probably the number one, because I think in some ways it probably underpins some of the other areas of innovation as well. So you know, and if you don't have a culture of innovation in the company, you won't be curious to learn from others, to learn from your colleagues, to look outside the sector, look outside. So that collaboration, I think, is underpinned by a culture of innovation, and I think that's the bit that's really essential, because I think too often innovation is termed as a sort of something that's just about technology, when actually it's about ways of thinking about things. And innovation can be very, very simple things, but it may be about some of the excellent field technicians that are out there just looking at the way that they're doing things like doing network connections and working with customers and saying, well, there's a better way of doing this, and allowing that to percolate throughout the organisation. So having that sort of space to innovate and allowing all the people in an organisation the room to innovate, I think is essential. So I think that's the right answer.
I couldn't agree more. But if we just jump into one of the things that came up this week was actually Margareta. You were off speaking at Utility Week's Debt Conference, or Consumer Debt Conference 2018, and you were talking about how innovation can really help customers in vulnerable circumstances, something we touched on a little bit in this week's video. So how did you think it went?
I think it was a great conference, and then always, you know, consumer debt is a massive issue, and then it's great to see so many companies coming together to try to talk about the issue and how we can all work together to find solutions. And I think the main thing for me was definitely linked to data and the value in unlocking customer data, and also not just customer related data but all sorts of data that companies may hold, and including open data and the innovation that can be underpinned by open data. And you know, I'm a geek, I'm you know, policy geek, consumer geek. I'm absolutely passionate about finding solutions for customers for vulnerability, and it was great to see that companies came up with some innovative solutions around how to embed changes within their organizations. And obviously when we talk about innovation and the end goals of innovation, it was really important to highlight that it's not just about tech, it's also about people. We highlighted the importance of culture, and I really liked a comment from Joe Coulson from the Institute of Customer Service this week, who mentioned that it's not just about the tech, but it's also about the processes, and to deliver excellent customer service you need to blend the technology and the human support. And I couldn't agree more with that comment, because actually in the conference the holistic approach that companies need to provide to consumers and customers in vulnerable circumstances came up a lot, and everybody's working really hard to achieve that solution. So I think in terms of processes and the efficiency of processes, you always need that human touch, and so people don't feel like you shouldn't be leaving people behind and human angle behind, so there's always a good balance to be created there.
Absolutely. And John, to bring you in on this, innovation in this sort of area in terms of vulnerability, it's not sort of the most traditional area for it. Do you think there's more scope for more to be done?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think that, I mean, one of the key aspects of our price control is setting out how we want companies to be thinking more about how the services they provide to vulnerable customers. And I think there's real room for innovation here. I think there's a huge amount of sort of digital technology now that allows us to access data in different types of ways, and allows then companies to focus services, identify people in vulnerable circumstances, but provide services in different types of ways, and that can be around targeting emergency services, where if there's a disconnection of service, so how do you get the right services to people? It can be about helping people pay in different types of ways, and we've seen companies recently start to do things about how they can help customers who are struggling to pay incrementally using digital platforms. So I think these are all great innovations, and I think the water sector is starting to really grasp the nettle on this. But I'd definitely like to see more of it as we go forward.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there was an interesting article from Tim Edwards from Clancy Docrat this week that I really liked, because Tim talked about collaboration being key for the water sector, especially it's important today, but you know what's happening after PR19, and we all agree, you know, it's a brave new word out there, and we need to be prepared. And Tim also touched on skills and upskilling, and John, what's your view on this? How crucial really it is going to be, and the challenges that a post-PR19 word will pose to companies?
Well, I would say innovation starts today. It shouldn't wait for PR19. It shouldn't just be about the business plan and that moment in time. Because as we said, customer expectations are changing all the time, and you've got to keep up. The world is moving so fast. I don't know, I feel sometimes dizzying speed of it. My kids have a better understanding of where it's all going than I do. But I think that in terms of the skills that companies need, I think they are recognising this and being challenged by great groups like the EU Skills, who are thinking very much about what that skills base of the industry should be going forward. But I think you can see the types of skills are changing quite significantly and having to change, particularly around the manipulation of data. And how that helps in terms of companies being able to manage their networks more effectively. So you may find that the technicians of the future in water companies, or even you're starting to see that now, may have to always have a sort of a big IT component to what they do. very interesting visit to a company I made recently. They've got a drone pilot now who flies drones that have thermal imaging camera to identify where leaks may be in pipes, and that was, you know, an illustration of how the workforce may be quite radically changing as we go forward, which I think is, for those people working in the industry, a really exciting thing, and really, you know, broadens out the field of what they can do with their careers as well.
Definitely, I think that's really exciting, and I absolutely know that I want to be having a go at that drone pilot. But if I just leave my last sort of comment that we wanted to look at before we have a little look at some of the live comments that we're having, so please do send in some of the live comments, there was actually a really interesting blog that came out at the back end of last week from the guys at Waterstink. It's a great name, but it's actually a fantastic blog, and it was sort of a critique of what we've been doing through this whole innovation campaign, looking at some of the things that they thought we'd done quite well and some of the things that maybe we can improve on. And John, I was quite keen, you've had a little look at the blog. What did you think about their assessment?
I really liked it. I thought it was really balanced, and you know, it was. You're always a bit nervous when you open external commentary of your work, 360-degree feedback and all that. But I thought it was really interesting what they said. It was great that it was positive about what we've been doing, and great tributes to you, Margareta, and Freddie as sort of the front people for the campaign. But I think that one of the areas where they did, maybe we haven't talked as much, I think was around the risks associated with innovation and managing the risks of innovation. I think it's a fair point. You know, there is sometimes anxiety about innovation is taking a leap into the unknown, it's spending money, you don't know whether it's going to work, and that is a challenge. It's a challenge for all companies to do that kind of thing. I think it's as much about how the industry, both going back to our other themes, you know, works out how to collaborate with others, because that's a way of mitigating risk. It's a way, you know, you can collaborate with others in the supply chain, other companies, people outside the sector. There are joint ventures. There are other things that you can do to mitigate that risk. So I think there's a level of creativity and innovation needed in thinking about how to get the best out of that. It was interesting recently, a comment was made about whether we should expect smaller companies to be just as innovative as the big companies. And I thought, well, actually, you know, there are trade-offs here. Small companies can be nimbler. They can be more agile in how they think about innovation. Bigger companies might find it a bit slower. But then that brings me back again to that collaboration piece. If small companies don't have as deep pockets as the bigger companies, are they able to come together? I think I would like to see very much the industry thinking about these areas of collaboration where they can do far more together on the things that matter to customers.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic note on which to round up some of the comments here, but we're just going to pick up a couple of the live comments here. So first, I think this was relating back to the poll actually, John, that a fellow John Rains 40, talks about how celebrating success is really key in culture, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, and I would say what we're seeing, and I think the response from the water sector and the supply chain to this campaign has been great. And it shows that, I think, across the board, companies are really starting to embrace innovation in a way that maybe they haven't before. So I think we should be, you know, we have to celebrate the successes out there. I think the campaign has done that in showing the sort of, you know, the great things that are going on there. And I think those successes can help to inspire others and other people to also learn from them and say, well, you know, maybe. Because I think innovation, you know, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants in innovation, so you're always wanting to learn from others. There's very rarely ever a kind of completely unique idea. It's usually the greatest innovations are built on other things people have done. So yes, I couldn't agree more.
And also you mentioned Inspire there, which is effectively the whole purpose behind the campaign. Yeah. But Margareta, did you want to pick up on one of these other comments?
There's so many coming in. Thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, I think there was a good example highlighted in terms of IoT networks are being used in France to both monitor water usage and identify health concerns, which is a great kind of best practice highlighted there, I think.
Yeah, and it's about learning internationally as well.
Definitely, I think that's very important.
Can I just come in on that? I think one of the one area I think it'd be great to see and I know water companies are doing this, but see even more of it is that learning from other countries, because there are other countries that are particularly, say, much more water stressed. So, you know, parts of Australia, parts of the developing world that either have much poorer, you know, infrastructure, or much more sort of environmental stresses than we have. And in this country, and I think they're thinking about things and developing technologies about water reuse, and circular economy ideas of how you have a completely sort of independent home that can use the water that comes in and recycle it. I think those things, we really need to be sort of importing some of those ideas into the UK, and I know people are already thinking about that, but I think particularly in those areas where there are real stresses in the water system, I think we can learn a lot.
Yeah, I think our testing report also highlighted quite a wide range of international examples, also in terms of how you involve your local communities into digital innovation and infrastructure innovation, which was quite, I think it was a fascinating report. So
yeah, Resilience in the Round did much the same. But I am going to, unfortunately, I massively appreciate all the comments we're getting in. I've also seen a couple comments from Ian Small, who I know we featured here. Ian, what I'm going to say is, could you please send, or Ian and everyone else, send in these comments, because we're going to be going to a Twitter hour very, very soon at 1 o'clock. We're going to be hopefully having a nice discussion there. So we really, really appreciate you watching this Periscope, and we appreciate that you've watched a lot of content through this Spark Innovation campaign, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. But there's one thing to mention, which is technically this isn't actually quite the end, is it, Margareta?
No, it's not, because we just can't say goodbye this easily. It's too good. We're actually going to do a special bonus feature, which is going to go live on Tuesday at 11 AM, called Keeping the Spark: Reflections on Innovation. And basically we've asked all our contributors to tell us that one single key message that they want us to take away in terms of what innovation really means to them, and one key message about what innovation would be they want us to really take away from all the conversations we had. So it's kind of like a summary of all their thoughts on innovation, and we actually prepared a very special bonus feature for you, so you can enjoy it next Tuesday at 11 AM.
Yeah. So look forward to that, but otherwise all that we have to say is thank you so much to all of our contributors throughout Spark, as well as to everyone who has watched any of the content, anyone who's tweeted, commented and everything like that.
And use our hashtag, our wonderful
Absolutely.
hashtag.
And can I just say a huge thanks to Freddie and Margareta for doing all this, and to Stuart, who's the brains behind the scene.
Behind the camera, you never see him, but he's always there.
You never see, but doing a fantastic job, so well done.
Not to mention the rest of the team as well, we should say.
And the rest of the fantastic offer team behind us all. Yes.
But we will now properly wrap up rather than keep congratulating ourselves. So thank you very much for watching, and make sure to keep yourselves warm, and hopefully you've enjoyed Spark.
Thank you.